Hi everyone, welcome to Eve Math Tutoring. Today's lesson is going to be on multiplying fractions. Let's start off with the following example. 2 over 5 times 1 over 3. So when you're multiplying two fractions, you just go ahead and multiply the top numbers and then multiply the bottom numbers and write that number there on the bottom. Now we get 2 over 15. Once we get our answer, we have to make sure that it's fully reduced. To figure out if this is fully reduced, what we can do is see if there's a greatest common factor between 2 and 15 that we can divide 2 by and 15 by. So to find the greatest common factor of two numbers, what you're going to do is list the factors of each number. And the factors of each number are the numbers that divide that number. So what numbers divide into 2 evenly? 1 and 2. 1 divides into 2 twice, and 2 divides into itself once. Same thing for 15. 1 divides into 15 15 times. 3 divides into 15 5 times, so it divides evenly into 15. 5 divides into 15 3 times, and finally 15 divides into itself once. So we list the factors, all of the factors of the numbers, and then we find the greatest common number. And that's our greatest common factor. So in this case, it's 1. Now, when listing the factors, it's important to remember to include the number 1, which is a factor of all numbers, and also the number itself of the particular number you're looking at is always a factor of that number. So remember to keep those, so like 1 and 15, and then remembering to think of other numbers that also divide evenly into the number you're looking at. Okay? So we figured out the greatest common factor of 2 and 15 is 1. So if I divide this fraction, if I divide the top number and the bottom number by the number 1, I'm not actually going to change the fraction. So that means that this is already fully reduced. Okay, so we could try another example. If we have 4 over 5 times 2 over 10. Again, we're multiplying two fractions, so we multiply the top numbers and write that number on the top, and then multiply the bottom and write that number on the bottom. So we get 8 over 50. Now that I have the answer, I have to figure out what my greatest common factor is between the numbers 8 and 50. So what are the numbers that divide into 8 evenly? 1, 2, 4, and 8. What are the numbers that divide evenly into the number 50? 1, 2, 5, 10, 25, and 50. So 50 does divide into itself. So we do include 50 in our list of factors, and same thing here, 8 divides into itself, and of course we also don't forget the number 1. Now if we look here, the greatest common factor in this example is 2. So what I do now is, because it's greater than 1, any number greater than 1, if the two numbers in your fraction have a greatest common factor that is bigger than the number 1, then what you're going to do is divide them both by that number, both the numbers. And when you do that, you're going to get your fraction in a reduced format. So this would be fully reduced. So it's 8 over 50. It's equal to 4 over 25, but 4 over 25 is the fully reduced way of writing 8 over 50. Okay, and if I was to draw these two fractions in a diagram format, I would see that they are actually equal to each other. If I had 50 pieces in the first circle and I shaded in 8 of them, and over here I had 25 pieces in this circle and I shaded in 4 of those 25 pieces, I would actually get the same diagram. And the reason for that is because these two fractions are actually equal to each other. However, this one is the reduced way of writing this fraction. Okay, and you always want to write your final answer in fully reduced form. Now, what if we have an example where we have a mixed fraction and a regular fraction? Now, first of all, a mixed fraction is a fraction that has a whole number and a fraction. That's a mixed fraction. Includes a whole number and a fraction. When we have a fraction like this is just a regular fraction. And that's because the top number is smaller than the bottom. So when you have a fraction where the top is smaller than the bottom, top number is smaller than the bottom, that's considered a regular fraction. Now, what you're going to do is, when you have a mixed fraction, you're multiplying by a regular fraction, you can't actually multiply this out. So you can't just say, okay, this is 3, and I would multiply the two fractions. So that would be incorrect. What you're going to do is you're actually going to change the mixed fraction into improper format. So to do that, you do 2 times 3, which is 6, and you add 1, you get 7 over 2. And then this one's a regular fraction, so I just leave it as is. Now, when you have a mixed fraction and you're multiplying by a regular fraction, you do have to do this step. This is necessary to solve the question, okay? And there's no other way to solve it. So multiplying 3 by 1 and then multiplying fractions, that's going to give you the wrong answer. So you do have to convert this into improper fraction format. It's still the same fraction. I'm just writing it in improper form, okay? And then this one we just rewrite. Now, for every fraction, the top number is referred to as the numerator. The bottom number is referred to as the denominator. So for improper fractions, what happens is the numerator is actually greater than the denominator. Okay, so in this case, this example right here is an improper fraction. Okay, so I rewrite my mixed fraction in improper format, then I can go ahead and multiply the two top numbers and the two bottom numbers. So 7 times 2 is 14, 2 times 5 is 10. Now, once I have the fraction in this form, what I have to do, now we can never leave our final answer in an improper format. So what we're going to do is change this now back to mixed. So 10 goes into 14 once, and we're left with 4 over 10. So that's how we convert back from improper to mixed. Okay, so we go from improper to mixed in this way. Now, at this point, I look at these two numbers and I have to think of, is there a greatest common factor, the biggest number that would divide both of these? And yes, there is, and that number is 2. So that's the greatest common factor. So I would go ahead and divide the fraction part out by the greatest common factor of each number. And that would give me, greatest common factor of both numbers, sorry. And that would give me 1 2/5, and that would be fully reduced. Now I'm going to call this method A. And at this point, I'm just going to show you an alternate way of solving the same question. Now again, starting with this question, I have to convert to improper first. And again, I do that by doing 2 times 3, which is 6, plus 1, 7, and I write it over the bottom number, which is 2. Now, on this step, you could solve it the first way, or at this step, you can actually start canceling top and bottom numbers that are common. So 2 divides 2, and I can go ahead and cancel them out. In that case, I would get 7 over 5. And again, because the top number is bigger than the bottom, it's improper, I would reduce it back to mixed. So 5 goes into 7 once, and you're left with 2 and you as a remainder, and you write 5 over here on the bottom number here. So I get the same answer in a different method. So from here, you can go solve this way, or you can go ahead and just solve this way. Now you're allowed, when you're multiplying fractions, to cancel numbers from a diagonal that are common, so common multiples, or from top and bottom you're allowed to cancel. You would not be allowed to cancel 2 numbers that would be common both on the bottom together or both on the top. It would just be either diagonally or top and bottom. Okay, so like in that manner. Now that would be the answer there. Let's try another example where we have 2 mixed fractions. So when you have 2 mixed fractions and you're multiplying, again, you can't just multiply the whole numbers and the fractions. That would give you the incorrect answer. What you have to do again is convert these both to improper format. So to do that, we do 2 times 2, which is 4, plus 1, which is 5, and write it over the bottom number. And then to convert the second fraction to improper format, we do 5 times 1, which is 5, plus 3, which is 8, over the bottom number, which is 5. Now that we have two improper fractions, we can go ahead and multiply them. Then we get our answer. Again, it's an improper fraction because the top number is bigger than the bottom, so we would go ahead and reduce it. So 10 goes into 44 and we're left with nothing. So that would be our final answer. And that's method A. And we did that because we never, in fractions, never leave the answer as an improper fraction because it's not considered fully reduced. Now, same question. Again, after we convert it, I'll show you method B. So that's method A. Method B, after converting both of these to improper fractions, so 2 times 2 plus 1, 5 over 2, times 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3, 8 over 5. Now on this step, you can go ahead and start canceling out common multiples. So 5 and 5 would cancel each other, and 2 goes into 8 4 times, and 2 would cancel, so we would actually get the answer 4. So you could go this way, or you could go ahead and cancel out and get straight to the final answer. And if you want, you can even put 1s here, or you don't have to, so that part's fine too. And that's how you would get the answer for that one. Okay, so that's just a quick lesson on how to multiply fractions. If you have any questions, you can always email me at evemathtutoring@outlook.com, or post a question on the channel. That's if you have questions regarding multiplying fractions. If you want me to do more examples or different types of questions, you can let me know and I'll go ahead and do that. So I hope that the video helped you understand how to multiply fractions, and stay tuned for our next videos. Bye-bye.